Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone had a blessed Eid Salah, Eid Day. Unfortunately, this is going to be a bit rushed. I'm sort of pressed for time. But lately, I've been reading some of the works, reacquainting myself with E. Franklin Frazier. It's probably backwards or whatever to you, but the book is called The Black Bourgeoisie, the book that brought the shock of self-revelation to middle-class blacks in America, again by E. Franklin Frazier. E. Franklin Frazier was a contemporary of W.E.B. Du Bois, and he himself was also a sociologist. And as you know, sociology is one of my fields of study. So I really found his work to be very interesting and very compelling. Very interesting, and it says a lot. It tells a lot about us. But for those of you who are familiar with some of my other videos and the Islamic perspective of my studies, I tend to filter everything through an Islamic lens. So as I'm reading about the black bourgeoisie and who they are, from the perspective of E. Franklin Frazier, and also from the perspective of W.E.B. Du Bois, but also from the perspective of Karl Marx, within sociological terms or sociological definitions, the term bourgeoisie comes out of conflict theory, which was authored by Karl Marx. And I'm going to have to keep this sort of short and concise as much as I can due to time, because this topic could take us hours, and this could be an entire series of conversations. But in sociological terms, or in conflict theory terms, in regards to Karl Marx and how he defined it, he basically defined the bourgeoisie as those who own the means of production. They are the elites of the society. They are the ones who determine allocation of resources. So you have the bourgeoisie and you have everyone else, proletariat. The proletariat is the working class. Conflict theory there's more to it than that, but that's conflict theory in a nutshell. The bourgeoisie, the elites, they own the means of production. They determine allocation of resources and wealth and everything else. They also play a large part in determining policy and who gets what and where what goes and all that. And proletariat is everyone else. So E. Franklin Frazier talks about the black bourgeoisie. The black bourgeoisie, according to E. Franklin Frazier, consists of the middle-class blacks. Now, you have to keep in mind when E. Franklin Frazier was alive. We're talking back in the 1800s into the 1900s. So he was back, again, a contemporary of W.E.B. Du Bois. So if you're familiar with W.E.B. Du Bois and when he lived and died, that gives you an idea of when E. Franklin Frazier was doing his thing. But he talks about the black bourgeoisie, and he talks about how the black bourgeoisie are disconnected from the masses of the black community, how they live in a world, a fantasy world, because they're more affluent, they have access to money, they have access to resources and schools, and they can get into certain universities that the average black couldn't get into, that they have created this sort of false identity and false, I don't want to say sense of worth, but almost being white adjacent, if that makes sense. Again, the focus is not necessarily the black bourgeoisie, but it was this book that sort of led me down the path that I'm getting ready to go down. Again, for those of you who are familiar with some of my other works, I tend to focus everything through an Islamic lens. How does this apply to Islam? Oh, also, I wanted to say, when you talk about how words are defined, you will find variants of definition between the social sciences. So bourgeoisie may be a little bit different in a different social science. It depends on how they define it and how they research it and the methods and all of that. Because the term bourgeoisie could even have a cultural aspect to it. As African Americans, we all know what we mean when we say somebody's acting bougie. Such and such came into some money, now they're acting bougie. Such and such got a new car, now they're acting bougie. We know what that means. So it's used a little bit different. There's I don't want to say cross definition, but cross usage of bourgeoisie, which is bougie is a derivative of bourgeoisie. So with that said, I had to ask myself, how does this apply? How does this apply? Oh, I'm getting a phone call. How does this apply to the Muslims? Because as you know, I filter all of my studies and all of my information that I get. And I ask myself, well, how does this apply to the Muslims? Because we as Muslims don't live in a vacuum. We live in the world. We live in a society. I guarantee you'll have some Muslims that'll say, this stuff has nothing to do with Islam, blah, blah, blah. And that's not necessarily true. And again, because we may not accept it or apply it doesn't mean the rest of the world thinks or feels about these topics the same. So again, using or coming from the understanding of conflict theory, do we have Muslim bourgeoisie? Do we have Muslim bourgeoisie? This video may ask more questions and give answers. I don't know, because and I'm really interested in getting some feedback on this. Muslim bourgeoisie. When we look at the bourgeoisie from a Muslim perspective, based on the definition from Karl Marx, meaning they own the means of production, they are the elite of the society, who would that pertain to today? So, and I use this as a research tool, not as a be-all, end-all, but I went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT, is there a Muslim bourgeoisie? So I'm going to read to you what ChatGPT said. Yes, in sociology and political economy, a Muslim bourgeoisie refers to members of the bourgeoisie or capital-owning or business-owning class who are Muslim. The term does not describe a distinct economic class separate from the bourgeoisie. Rather, it identifies a segment of the bourgeoisie by religious and cultural affiliation. Examples would include merchants and trading elites in the medieval Islamic world, industrialists and business families in countries such as Turkey, Indonesia, Pakistan, and various Arab states, contemporary entrepreneurs, financiers, and corporate leaders who identify as Muslim. The concept is often discussed in studies of economic development in Muslim majority societies, the relationship between Islam and capitalism, and that's a whole nother story in itself, the rise of conservative business classes, especially in countries like Turkey, class formation and social stratification among Muslims. From a Marxist perspective, a Muslim bourgeoisie remains part of the bourgeoisie because its defining characteristics is ownership of capital and the means of production. The adjective Muslim simply highlights the group's religious identity, which may influence in social networks, values, philanthropy, political preference, or business practices. Now, we as Muslims who have some level of knowledge of the religion, we have to look at, is there a religious bourgeoisie? We as African Americans who live here in America, who may not have studied the Arabic language, may not have knowledge of the Arabic language, are basically at the mercy of translators, interpreters, and du'at, or people who call to Islam, who have the ability to translate from Arabic to English. We are at their feet when it comes to understanding. Are there any particular countries that have a monopoly on the dissemination of Islamic ideology? Is it Saudi? Is it Pakistan? Is it Turkey? Is it Iraq? Who is it? Do we have these issues? Do you believe that we have a hierarchy? Because when you talk about conflict theory, there's a hierarchy. You have the bourgeoisie, you have the proletariat, which are beneath. They are consumers of what the religious elite give. That's going to form identity. That's going to form not just identity, but self-worth, communal worth. That's going to focus, it's going to impact family structure. It's going to impact a whole lot of things. Are we controlled by a Muslim or an Islamic bourgeoisie? Not only in America, but globally. Or let me say, not only globally, but in America. Who would be the bourgeoisie in America? And there's different ideologies, different madhahib, different groups and sects and, things of this nature. Do the listeners of this video, do you feel that there is a bourgeoisie amongst the Muslims here in America? Is there, and how does it affect not just the African-American Muslim, but the Muslim in general? Because what affects the general Muslim definitely affects the minority, which are African Americans. So depending upon how well this video does, maybe we'll swing back around and delve a little deeper into the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. But I just wanted to sort of kick this around, throw this idea out. What do you guys think about looking at a Muslim bourgeoisie class? Do we have it? Does it exist? Not only globally, but in America. Who would be the Muslim bourgeoisie in America? Who would be the proletariat? What is the impact of that? How does that impact finance? How does that impact policy in the masjid? How does that impact trajectory of education as far as Islamic understanding, reading from specific books, reading from specific madhabs? We all know that there's 4 prominent madhahib. Are they a part of the bourgeoisie? Is it depending upon what group is dominant in the community? There's quite a bit to uncover on this topic. So I'm curious. And I want to hear from some of the students, as well. I want to hear from some people who have done some international travel. I want to hear from some of the indigenous, especially I do want to hear from some of the indigenous Muslims here in America. Do you think that there is a Muslim bourgeoisie? Also, maybe in the next video, I will get into a bit of functionalism, which is another sociological paradigm that deals with how we understand society and how it runs. I was going to get into it this time, but I don't want to put too much information out at one time. Sometimes people get information overload. So just from a conflict theory, from a Marxist perspective, do we believe in the bourgeoisie? Do they exist based on the definition of what he gave, which is those who own the means of production, those who decide allocation of resources and wealth and who gets what and what groups fall under what, who is elite management, who is middle management, who is, the workers, how do they interact? The bourgeoisie determine those types of things. Proletariat, everybody else. Do we believe that to be something that exists in society? And if it exists in society, why would we think that it doesn't exist in the Muslim world? Because we as Muslims, again, do not live in a vacuum. We live in the world. So we're definitely impacted by the world. We're impacted by everything that the world has to give. Having lived in the Muslim world, I lived and studied in Egypt, lived and studied in Kuwait. I've been to Southeast Asia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia. I've studied and talked to countless people. But even when we look at it, and I don't want to keep going on, but even when you look at it from an from an educational perspective, in the Muslim world, the curriculum that the Muslim schools, notice I didn't say Islamic schools, because there's a difference between an Islamic school and a Muslim school. What is the curriculum that's normally used in the Muslim schools, in the Muslim world? The curriculum that's sort of elevated, that's sort of given preference, that is utilized the most. What I come to find, it's Western curriculum with a lot of Eurocentric thinking and ideas connected to it. You have Muslim kids reading, what's that guy's name? Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe and some of these other quote unquote literature, classics and these great authors supposedly, but not giving precedence or focus to all of the great, not only African, Arab, and Asian authors and literature that exist. It oftentimes Europeans and European ideologies are often elevated as if it's the top metric that we all aspire to. There's some conflict theory in there. There's some bourgeoisie in there, if you understand it. So let me know what you guys think. I have an Eid carnival that I have to go to, and I am really interested in getting into this topic. And I hope that this topic picks up some traction. If you find the topic to be beneficial, if you find it to be something that we can discuss together, I wouldn't mind going live with some people who wouldn't mind, sharing some information. For me, this is not a debate, but an opportunity to share information. Everything doesn't have to be a debate. It doesn't have to be I'm not going to say I don't hold a position either way, but to me, it's not an issue of debate, but more of an issue to share information and give understanding. I am always open to someone to tell me something that I don't know. I can always learn, and I'm always open to learn, and I hope others approach it the same way. So let me know what you guys think. Maybe we'll do a live one of these days and sort of talk about this topic. I am curious. I am interested. Please do me a favor, share this video. If you think it would be something that someone would benefit from, or if maybe you think they may find it interesting. Some of the topics that I discuss may be a little bit off the beaten path Islamically, because they're not normally approached from this angle that I'm coming at things from, which hopefully is a breath of fresh air for some people. I enjoy it. I love it. So let me know what you guys think. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.